Hey friends, in this video you're going to learn about types of clauses. The second video will be about types of phrases. So today I want you to be able to identify independent, dependent, noun, relative, and adverbial clauses. Let's go. Before we start, quick review in case any of these parts of speech or verbals are old or difficult for you. I'm guessing you know noun, adjective, and verb. Adverbs describe verbs or adjectives like really or very or quickly. Adverbs can but don't have to end in ly. Prepositions are what I call location words, but they're time, space, or location. Some people remember it as anything you can do to a box. So above the box, below the box, with the box, by the box, around the box, etc. There's a really long list of prepositions, so that's a tough one to memorize. Just really think about location. Finally, a participle is a verb that looks like a verb but is actually behaving like an adjective. It's not the main verb of the sentence. So, my broken heart. Yeah, broken could be a verb, but right now it's not. It's describing the heart. The bent pencil. The amazed student. I'm not saying the student was amazed. I'm describing the amazed student. Or the crying puppy. That sort of thing. Now here's the chart of what we're going to be figuring out in these two lesson videos. If you have chunks of words, we have to be able to label what they are. If it's complete and has both a subject and predicate, then we're going to call it an independent clause. But over here in the fragment category is everything else. Today, again, we're focusing on clauses in this video, so we're going to look at types of dependent clauses the most. Maybe they have a subject and predicate, like a noun and main verb, but something is up with them and they are not complete and they can't stand alone. So again, we're about to check out adverb, noun, and relative clauses in addition to independent versus dependent. So here we go. In case you need a review, here's the main difference between independent and dependent clauses. Independent clauses can stand alone, they're independent, and they are basically a complete sentence. They have a subject and a predicate verb, and the reason it can stand alone is because it's a complete thought. Like, the dog is adorable. Dog is my subject, the word is my main verb, and it's fine. The sentence isn't awkward, it doesn't leave me hanging. Or even just a short sentence like, you were late. That counts as complete. It's short, but it has a subject, you, and my verb. Okay? Just because it's short doesn't mean it's a fragment or something. Now, dependent clauses, though, are a fragment because even if it has a subject and a predicate, there's something about it that's messing it up and making it not a complete thought after all. Most dependent clauses have a subordinating conjunction. I like to remember the acronym AWUBIS, although after, as, when, while, until, before, because, if, since, because these are the 10 most frequent subordinating conjunctions, but obviously there's a bunch more of them, including the word unless. Okay? So if I said the dog is adorable, like up here, that could be a complete sentence, but if I add the word although at the front, although the dog is adorable, ... Like, you're waiting for me to finish the sentence. The word although, aka the subordinating conjunction, basically ruined it. Okay? Now it's a dependent clause, and now it leaves you hanging. I need more words added on to be able to finish it. Because you were late, ... You get the idea. Now, subordinating conjunctions aren't the only thing that cause dependent clauses. A relative pronoun can do the same thing. Words like who, whom, whose, that, and which, those are like the biggest ones. If you see these at the beginning of a clause, bingo, it's dependent. You don't even have to think about it. Okay? So that also applies to whoever and whomever and things like that. We'll get into more examples of those in a minute. Now, in the world of dependent clauses, okay, fragments, there are three main kinds we're going to think about today. Now, before I get into these three kinds, I want you to stay on the lookout for subordinate conjunctions, aka those AWUBIS words, and relative pronouns, again, who, whom, that, which, etc. The first one's a noun clause, a group of words that act together as the subject or object of the sentence. So not just the noun burrito, but the burrito I ate for lunch was amazing. Was right here is my main verb. Everything before it is that group, that noun group, or that noun clause. Okay, and that's the subject of my sentence, all those words together. So you have to look at them as one giant noun chunk and not just the single noun or the simple noun itself. I know it's still a clause because it has the words I ate in it. So in a normal situation, I ate could be reworded in a way to be a complete sentence, but right now it's not. Now in the second example, this is the case where a noun clause is the object of the sentence. I, subject, forgave, predicate verb. Who did I forgive? Who's the object of my forgiveness? The kid who stole my lunch money. Okay, so kid is the noun, but all these words together describe that kid, so it's a noun clause. His only regret was, boom, that he didn't hire a tutor sooner. Now, check it out. I told you about that relative pronoun, right? That and which. So that's a visual clue that we have a dependent clause going on. Okay, and these are the object of his regret. Whoever wins the game, subject, will advance to the semifinals. We good? Noun clause, subjects or objects of the sentence. Next up is an adverb or adverbial clause. I haven't figured out the pattern yet. Some people say adverb clause, some people say adverbial. Adverbial is technically more proper, but we're going to go with it. Adverb clauses tell the why, how, to what degree, etc. of the verb. AKA, they modify the verb of the sentence. In the first example, my verb is ended. I know the game ended when the buzzer rings. Okay? So this chunk of words, starting with an adverb, describes the verb and tells me when. Now, here's an example, second, of a dependent clause. Starts with an adverb that clarifies when I can eat. Eat is my main verb of the sentence. Okay, when can I eat the cookies? Not till you finish your homework. So when you're looking for an adverb clause, you basically have to find your main verb first and make sure that this clause or this dependent clause is connected to it or makes sense with it. Okay. Now finally, we hinted about this earlier, but if you've got a relative pronoun, it kicks off a relative clause. Which sundae do I want? The one that comes with sprinkles. What about the farmer's market? It's the one which also sells flowers. Now, we don't have time to fully dig into this, but just so you know, the word which gets a comma beforehand and the word that does not. It's a thing. Memorize that, tuck it away for later, and just know that that's real. Okay? Now, to review, this section of the web right here is what we talked about the most today. Yes, we reviewed that an independent clause is a complete sentence, subject and predicate can stand alone. But in the dependent clause fragment world, we've got adverb, noun, and relative clauses. They have a subject and predicate, but something is going on to make them not able to stand alone. Which means now we need to practice. Take a minute to pause the video, look over these 4 sentences, and see if you can figure out which ones are happening. Independent, dependent, and if it's dependent, which kind. You ready? I'm going to reveal the answers. This first bolded clause was independent. I, subject, can't go to a place. The end. In sentence 2, this second bolded half is a dependent clause. Which kind? Well, it's got the Awubis word unless, and it's talking about going. It's an adverb clause or adverbial clause because it modifies if or when you can go. Now, number 3 has a relative dependent clause because it has the word which, relative pronoun, at the beginning. And finally, this giant clause at the end of sentence 4 is one big noun clause. I, subject, can't go, verbs. Where can't I go? What's the recipient of that? Boom, my object. The only game of the season that I care about. So really, in number 4, the object is game. This is the key word of the whole clause. It's a noun, okay? So that's a way you can kind of triple check. And basically, guys, if you've noticed, this whole identifying clauses thing is really about patterns. And it's really about noticing either what word it aligns to, like aligning to a verb, or noticing what word kicks it off, what word starts it. If you can get better at noticing these kinds of patterns, this whole identifying clauses thing becomes super easy. And with that is the end of this lesson. I hope you stick around to learn more about phrases next.